Good morning, Year 1, and welcome back after our half-term holiday. To start this half-term, we're looking at measures. Now, we've done some work on this before, but today we're going to be looking at length and height, and we're going to be looking at different ways we can measure that. But before we do that, we've got an arithmetic starts to start with, and it's revising halving that we did just before the holidays. So, get whatever you need together, whiteboards and whiteboard pens. When you're ready to start, we'll get going. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly model how to do the first couple because we did this just before the holidays and you may not remember now. I'm going to show you how to do it using this halving grid here. You may prefer to use grouping, in which case I can also show you that, but generally speaking from now on we're going to concentrate on the sharing method. So the first one is half of 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to count out 2 counters, 1, 2, and place them either side of our halving grid. And that means that half of 2 is 1. Half of 4, I'm just going to clear those away. We'll use them again in a minute. Half of 4, we're going to count out 1, 2, 3, 4. So what's that going to be? That's right, that's going to be 2. So you may want to use something similar at home to have a go at these. You may be able to work them out in your head. It's up to you. When you're ready, we'll go through the answers. Okay, welcome back, Year 1. So half of 6 is 3. Half of 8 is 4. Half of 12 is 6, because that's 6 plus 6, remember, makes 12. Half of 16 is 8. Half of 10 is 5, and half of 20. Now this is where you might want to use a slightly different method. I'm just going to show you what we could do. You could use 10 bars, and I'm just going to draw them. So you've got 10 bars, one there, and another one there. That represents 20, and what you could do is you could move one 10 bar in here. I'm going to have to draw them because it's stuck together, and the other 10 bar into here, which would give an answer of 10. And that works for anything that is a multiple of 20. So, answer is 10. Half of 12, it's been turned around, it really doesn't matter, it's just the same as that, it's 6. Half of 18 is 9. Half of 40 would be 20 and 20. Half of 30 is 15. Now these last ones are weird, and we're going to model how you do them. So we are saying, let's just clear this up again, we are saying that a half of something equals 1. So a half is going to have 1 in each of the halving boxes. So how many are there altogether? So 2. And then you can check you're right by checking the sum. A half of 2 equals 1. So this time it's going to be 2. So putting 2 in each side. So that equals 4. And a half of what? If we put 8 in each side, it's going to be 16. And a half of 12 is going to be half of something giving 12 is 24. Okay, but don't worry, those last ones were a real challenge. Okay, let me introduce you to a younger version of me. Now I want you to think about, and I want you to tell your grown-up how we could measure this person. Now this is somebody about the same height as me. So have a think about what measuring equipment we might be able to use for that. Think about what we use in class. Okay, you may have had a good idea, but I'm going to give you a choice of 5 things now. Okay, now these are the equipment we're going to use in class. The chances are you do not have all of these lying around your house, but there's a good chance you're going to have 2 or 3 of them. The metre rule is really good for tall things like Mr. Richards. The ruler is good for things up to 30 centimetres, so about the size of a big tablet, about the size of a maths book. Tape measure. Well, a tape measure is really good if you want to wrap something around, but again, you could use that if you had to, and you might well have one of these around your house to measure the height of somebody. That would be a possibility. Now, measuring tapes, again, you may well have one of these around the house. This is probably the most likely thing you're going to have, as well as that. Trundle wheel is very improbable you're going to have one of these. So don't worry too much about them, because for the most part you can use a measuring tape instead. Now, what we're going to be doing today, you're probably going to want the measuring tape for. But going back to the original question, you could measure me using a metre rule, although you'd have to hold it up to a point. This will be something we're modelling in class, so you'd have to hold it where it reaches and then measure up again. And you'd probably find that I'm about 1 metre 80, so just under 2 metres. You could use a tape measure, which probably might be long enough, and if it's not, you'd again use it in the same way, holding it at one point. Or you could use a measuring tape, which would be long enough, and that's probably your best choice, and that would probably come out at about 180 centimetres. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, and hopefully what you're going to be able to do by the end of the lesson, is you're going to be able to identify objects that are smaller and larger than 1 metre. Now at home that might mean you cut out something that is the length of a metre to help you. We'll be able to measure objects, and some of you are going to be able to read and record measures less than a metre accurately. So again, that would be using probably the measuring tape or the tape measure. Okay, so I'm going to show you how you're going to do this. Now in class, we're going to use a series of pieces of equipment around the classroom, and we've got pictures of them. Now you can do the same at home. Some of the pieces, some of the equipment we might use is a door, a table, a whiteboard, an exercise book, reading book. You might use the length of a room. And what you need to do is draw and write down the name of anything that's less than a metre, something that's more than 1 metre but less than 2 metres, and something that is more than 2 metres. And that's all there is to it. So again, coming back to our equipment, the pieces of equipment you should be aiming to use are this one, and if you've got it, this one and this one. Okay? And that is pretty much what we're going to do. But when we've finished, we've got a bit of a challenging question at the end. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so what you've got to decide is, what is the likely length of this cat? Is it 6 centimetres, 60 centimetres, 600 centimetres, that's roughly 3 times the size of Mr. Richards, 60 kilograms, doesn't even sound right, does it? Or 6 litres? So which one do you think it is? Well, we're pretty certain it's going to be centimetres, so it's got to be one of these 3. And the most likely one is 60 centimetres, which is about half your height. Right, the height of a year 1 child. Is that going to be 50 centimetres, 100 centimetres, 150 grams, 200 centimetres, 200 kilograms, or 150 centimetres? Have a think. Think about already knowing how long a cat is. Right, I think it's got to be centimetres again, because it's height. So I think the most likely is going to be not 50 centimetres, because you're not smaller than a cat. Not 200 centimetres, because you'd be taller than me. Probably not 150 centimetres, because that would be up to my shoulders. So it's going to be about 100 centimetres. And then the width of the road. So you might want to look outside for this. Width of the road, is it going to be 5 kilograms, 5 litres, 5 metres, or 5 centimetres? Now remember, one of the things we've been using today is a metre rule. And your tape measure will have sets of metres. Okay, so it can't be 5 kilograms because that's weight. It can't be 5 litres because that's volume. Could be 5 metres or it could be 5 centimetres. Well, 5 centimetres is about the length of your finger. It'd be a very small road. So I think it's got to be 5 metres. Okay, brilliant work, year 1. And that is the end of today's maths lesson.